Hey everyone, it's Alex Tullio here. So, to all those who have been regularly tuning into our Few Connect series, thank you so much for watching and being part of such a special initiative. We started this back in March where we had no other way to connect with you all, and over 7 months later, with over 80 episodes and counting, we are still streaming live 3 days a week. Whilst we keep evolving the format and introduce different themes, at the core, this show is all about real conversations with inspiring leaders and humans. Perhaps unsurprisingly, the leaders who leave the greatest impression are the ones who reveal a bit of themselves, the ups and downs, the human moments, and the personal journeys that make them the people they are today. This week, we're taking a break from going live. We talk a lot on the show about the importance of filling your cup and finding a balance. So we figured we had to walk the walk and take a few well-deserved days off. And what better excuse than Melbourne Cup Week and the fact that Melbourneites can finally leave the house. So this week we're playing some of our greatest hits, and it was hard to choose just 3. For today's episode, I chose one of my favourite leaders and a great partner, Damien Mu. In this live, Damien shares his thoughts on leadership, how to make the most of your environment, how to be truly present and connect with the hearts and minds of your team. Listen out for Damien's moments of gratitude, what he believes leadership is all about, and the importance of words and actions coming together. Enjoy. Now, without further ado, Damien, I've got your bio here. Now, for those of you, I'm sure a lot of you actually know Damien. He's been in the industry for a long time. For those of you who don't, let me just read out the bio. And yes, Damien, I do have your short bio, so don't worry. Damien Mu is the CEO and Managing Director of AIA Australia and New Zealand. Damien's career at AIA Australia began in 2007, and he was appointed to the role of CEO in 2014. Damien has more than 20 years' experience in the Australian financial services industry, with management experience spanning life and health insurance, superannuation, and investments. AIA Australia is a founding member of the Shared Value Project. In 2019, AIA entered into a joint cooperation agreement with CBA for the purpose of CommInsure Life as well. In 2018, Damien was awarded the Shared Value Champion and the AB+F Australian Insurance Executive of the Year. He holds a number of directorships, including the Financial Services Council, co-chair of the FSC Life Board Committee, and an advisory board member of the Shared Value Project. Welcome, Damien. If that's your short one, love to see your long bio. Mate, so good to have you on.
Thanks, Alex. Great to be here, and it's a real privilege and honour to be having this chat with you and to the few crew who are watching.
So probably a good place to start, because we like to see, it's great to hear your bio, but we'd love to know, give us a bit of a flavour of what life in lockdown's been like for you and your family.
Yeah, Alex, that is the question at the moment, isn't it? Well, it's been interesting. Is probably the way to put it. It's had the ebbs and flows on a daily, hourly basis. There's been some real moments of gratitude where I've been able to spend some time with my wife and my children that I wouldn't have otherwise ordinarily done without having this situation on hands. But then there's also been some real challenges. I am not, as I mentioned to you, going to win Father of the Year for homeschooling. I might be able to do okay at insurance, but homeschooling is definitely not one of my talents.
So okay, give us a bit of more insight into that. Where do you think that you've fallen down on that endeavour?
Clearly, I'm speaking a different language to my daughter Bailey, who's just turned 9, and my son Kai, who's 6, because I think I'm talking English, and but they just seem to ignore everything I say. And when the teacher starts speaking, whether it's on Zoom or something else, they just listen. But when I tend to speak, they just tend to be able to block me out.
You're a dad. You're a parent.
Yeah, I am. Yeah. Absolutely. So, but fortunately, I'm blessed. My wife is a primary school teacher, so she's got it under control, and they seem to listen to her. So there you go.
Handy, so handy. So there's so much, because we always have, I get the sneak peek, everyone. So I get to chat to our amazing speakers, behind the scenes as we talk about the session and all that, and do the promos and that sort of thing. And Damien, when you and I were chatting just as a lead up to this, I think we talked for probably half an hour or more, and it was wide ranging. So maybe a good place to start, just tell us a bit about what's been happening for you from a business and a leadership sense? Because, and I know that your answer will cover probably all sorts of things about, you know, hearts and minds and energy and emotion and connection and everything that entails. But what has the last kind of 2 months looked for you, and what have been the challenges as a leader of a big organisation?
Well, Alex, again, yeah, you're right. It's a pretty long answer to that because it covers a lot. But there's been, I guess, the last 2 months, there's been the experience as a leader, and then personally, and they both sort of come together, especially when, you know, we're all working remotely and life has just sort of become 1 hour into another, and now more than ever, sort of that line between sort of your work and personal life, will just really, I've never really understood that line. Work and personal being different. I don't understand the concept of how you can do something for 12, 13 hours a day sometimes and say that's just something I do over here, and then I have my personal life. I sort of think of them as, you know, it's one life and you live your best life. But for me, it's been, you know, going back to the principle of being really challenging myself to think about all the things I fundamentally thought I believed in, you know, which is leadership is first and foremost a privilege and a responsibility. You know, it is not an authority, and right now it is. You know, when you have a crisis, it's time to step up and, you know, when given command, take charge and lead. And that I'm very proud of the fact that we've been able to sort of come together as a team very quickly to develop our plan to get through this crisis. And that was very much about setting very simple objectives. What was really important right now was how we were going to give clarity and certainty to our team and to our customers during this time, and as best we could. So it was really much about coming together and saying, right, our first objective was how do we ensure our staff well-being, engagement, and productivity during this time. Number two, how are we going to, you know, business continuity, and then three, you know, reimagine the business. But that makes sense at a business level. But really, the key for me is from a head perspective, that works, right? I mean, people get that. But how are we going to connect that with the heart, which is what were people feeling right now? So then what I wanted to do is really think about how we would connect that to a plan around survive, revive, and then thrive. But really get people focused on the fact that, you know, that those elements of survival were really what we were all feeling right now. I mean, you know, we saw some really strange behavior, right? People were running to the supermarket to buy up all the toilet paper and didn't know what was going to happen. And, you know, we've suddenly moved from, you know, coming to a place of work every day to suddenly having to stay, you know, locked down at home. So it was really much connecting that plan to people to understand how we were going to connect to the emotion of what people were feeling, to get the heads and the hearts aligned, which was we're going to survive this together, and we're going to make sure we are, you know, working from home. We can homeschool even if it isn't fantastic. Guess what? There is still, you know, things in the supermarket, etc. We can still buy our takeaway coffee, but then how we can move through that revive phase. But what I would say is, you know, and get people connecting to the fact that we're going to be in that for a while, you know, and let's not jump ahead to thrive. In fact, you know, what we've been feeling collectively, and I have as well on a personal level, even though I've been busy in the what, which is what we're really good at, take charge and lead and do, is, you know, there's been a grieving, a collective grieving. A grieving of a loss of the way things used to be, and been, you know, grieving around the fact that, you know, a bit of denial around what the situation is. Start bargaining with ourselves around, you know, I'll stay home and wash my hands. Then you sort of get into the anger and the sadness and the acceptance. But you know, I'm a relentless optimist, so I know, you know, we are absolutely coming out of this. As a nation, as a world, as a community, as humans, better out of it. But you know, you need to accept those things, and so that's what's been happening. You know, busy with the what, and really proud of how we're doing that and bringing people on that journey of coming through the survive, revive, and then get ready to thrive. But also, you know, personally going through that sort of grieving process.
Well, so much there. And I know it resonates with everyone, because this is the thing, first and foremost, you know, we're human beings. So even though we've also got the leader hat on, you're right, it's this whole, how do you self-regulate, how are you aware of what you're going through yourself, and then how does that translate, and how then do you lead? I love so much of what you said there, but I know when we were chatting earlier that you were talking about the importance of, you know, the the 3 stages of survive, thrive, and then revive. You can't just go from survive and then sort of get people to revive before they're ready. And this is what you're saying, you know, it's this emotional process, and we're all different. So we're all at different stages of that, and there's this roller coaster. How have you found, because obviously, I mean, you've got a big team of people. How have you found that you've kept that communication and all that happening to make people feel safe when they are at different stages, and you've got a big business to run with customers at the end of it?
Yeah, and look, and we're learning as we go, and I don't know if we've done it all right, or whether, you know, I've got all the answers at all. But you know, from our experience and my experience, it was very much around you know, increasing the communication. So yes, we've got about 3,500 people that are spread across Australia, New Zealand, and you know, 97% of people are working from home, and that, you know, we had people within 12 days suddenly we had to get everyone in home and working from home to be able to perform the essential services. But what we wanted to do was that it was about being really, you know, how were we going to provide as much clarity and certainty during that time and stay connected? So the first thing we sort of did was implement our 3, you know, weekly live streams for our team, that everyone knows, hey, here's 15 minutes to 25 minutes 3 times a week that we're all going to come together and stay connected, and remind ourselves every day. You know, we immediately put up and encourage people to, we had our purpose on a page set as our screensaver. Everyone put it on top of their PC or laptop or wherever they were, to remind themselves every day that we are collectively working towards a common purpose, and why we do what we do. But it was those regular communications, and then setting the communication around and connecting it to both the head and the heart, which was, you know, those 3 business objectives, you know, staff well-being, engagement and productivity, business continuity, that so we could manage the business during this time and provide this, and then starting to reimagine life, but connecting it to survive, the feelings we're feeling, revive, which is getting used to the abnormal, because there is no new normal yet, getting used to the abnormal, and then positioning ourselves to thrive and giving us that hope, you know, that hope, and hope is, you know, I love language, and hope is, you know, optimism grounded in truth and fact, and give people that hope that we're going to choose hope, not fear.
That's beautiful. And it is, language is so powerful, isn't it? Mm-hmm. It's interesting that, you know, as you're talking, yesterday we had Chris Parker on, who I'm pretty sure you know, Chris, from the Ethics Alliance.
Yeah, we're a member.
Amazing woman, as you know. And it was interesting because we were talking about all sorts of concepts, from, you know, moral exhaustion, and how we're making, you know, every decision we make brings in ethics, and all the things that we knew to be true are no longer there, right? Everything's changed. So we're talking about that. And it just reminded me, as you were talking about, you know, how the communication and the purpose on a page, and bringing everyone back to why you're here. You know, Chris was talking about the same thing, about the importance of this North Star and this purpose and vision to really, for everyone to buy into and get behind. Yes. You know, and I think often we forget, in all the rushing around and the busyness, it's easy to forget these really big foundations that are simple, but not necessarily easy. I know you mentioned just earlier, and you were talking about, you know, we're all busy, and I know you and I were chatting about, even you felt this, you know, busier than ever, because everyone wants more, like, especially, you know, in your role. Well, you know, and it's not just you, but for you know, given what you do, you know, everyone wants more. The regulators want more. The government wants more. Your customers need more. So, and then we started talking about, and you mentioned just before, you know, the what. And I know that you're also passionate about this concept of, you know, being going from the what to the custodian of why and how, and why that's so important. Can you talk a bit about that? Because that's completely entwined, I think, in our natural instinct is to do, for most people. And the senior you get and the more things happen, then the easy reaction is to, well, I've just got to do more. Yeah. And our community here are saying to us, I'm exhausted. I've never been busier. It's 15-hour days. They're elastic-sided. It's just one long day that goes across the weekend. Yeah. So just with all of that, like, give us your thoughts about busyness and how to get out of the what, and boundaries and just anything around that you're seeing?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I think, it's something that we love the what, we love the doing, and it's actually, what we reward in society, right? You think about even in organizations and corporates, the more we do, and when you do something, that's where the reward comes from and the recognition comes from. But, as you go through your career, people say to me, what's the difference when you move to that executive table or becoming an executive? What is the subtle difference from from being the head of, the senior manager of a department? It's really moving from being, it's really moving to being a very subtle shift, which is very difficult to do, to becoming the custodian of the how and why question. Because you got to those positions because you were so fantastic at doing the what, right? And that's our comfort zone. We're comfortable in the what. But when you move up to that next level in your career, where you've actually got someone who's and people in a team who are fantastic at the what, how do you add value? How do you really steward that enterprise leadership that's going to help the organization get to peak performance? It's really by, enabling and empowering people who are fantastic now at doing the what you used to do, and adding value by being the custodian of the how and why. And a good example is, if you think about our one-on-ones. The first question we goes, hi, so what are you up to? What have you been doing? What's going on? And people will tell you the what. Oh, we're going to do this, that, and the other, and then we'll do this, and this. And everyone feels comfortable about it. But really the value comes from the conversation because in every business, we all have the same challenge, right? It's how do you allocate your finite resource, people and capital, in the most efficient and effective way? And as executives, that's the stewardship role you have. And to be able to do that, how you find that out is not by getting caught up in the what. It's actually asking the question, so tell me how you're going to do it, and why are we doing it? And the how question is really where you find out, do we really have a plan? Do we have the right resources, the capability, the talent, the support structures in place? And, why are we doing it? Is it still connected to the strategy of the business? Are the benefits still there? Because a lot of the time we just keep doing, and, many times we talk about, fail fast and this, that, and the other, but it's really, how do you make sure you, in a simple way, are connecting into the heartbeat of the organization, and what your senior leaders need is support, because you know what, they can do the what. It's how do you add the value? So I love that question. It's a very difficult question and behavior to get into.
But so necessary, isn't it? Because, we see this epidemic of busyness everywhere. I mean, we talk quite a bit on this show about, everything we're seeing now. I mean, it was already there before. The challenges that we're talking about, they're not anything to do with COVID. It's amplified, right? Like it's just been made more because now we've been thrust into this crisis mentality. But I've seen this sort of stuff for a long time. And I remember even in, my corporate career, one of the hardest transitions I made was exactly what you're talking about now, going from, well, hang on, I've got now a promotion, or got to that executive table because I'm great at doing and I get results. But suddenly, like, realizing that that's not the role that your team needs you to play. It's a really big adjustment. Like, I remember it super clearly. I'm wondering if you can, what are some really practical ways? Because I know a lot of the crew that are listening here are nodding. I can see them all about, I think intellectually we go, right, well, that makes complete sense. I need to get out of the what and the massive to-do list and the doing, but I feel a bit stuck. Like, how would you coach your exec team around getting them out of the what and more into the why and how?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of things. So firstly, just stepping back for a second, because you talked about the busyness, and I think it's important. I like to do a lot of somehow reflecting, whether I'm walking or training. I like to keep fit and train every day, but also just find those moments of reflection. It's really important, right? If we all believe, leadership is a privilege and responsibility, and that is about how do we have the greatest impact. And, I had to change a belief system, Alex, because I believed that it was, working more and more and more and doing more. But actually, if I really wanted to be the best leader I could be, I needed to also take time to improve my own self. And that was taking care of me as well, right? And that's hard to do because it feels selfish, but it's not. It's 5 minutes of reflection can be amazing. And so what I mean by that is, what I sort of reflected on was, I thought naively, I normally do 153 flights a year. I'm going to have so much time. What am I going to do? Well, actually, I've got less time. How is that possible when I'm not on planes all the time and work, having this? Because the days have got longer, because the moment we label something, and we've labeled this a crisis globally, everyone moves into crisis mode, which is what you were talking to me before. So why am I surprised? Because in crisis mode, regulators need more, boards need more, people need more, customers need more, teams need more. So of course there's more. So of course you've got to sit back, and it was naive of me to think that, hey, I'm going to go into this, I'm going to have more time, and I've got less time. But it's then being able to create those moments and times where you do get your reprieve. And they don't have to be big and they don't have to be long. It's just readjusting and thinking to myself, okay, instead of having 30-minute meetings back to back to back, I'm going to go to 20-minute meetings and create that 10-minute space to gather my thoughts, be more impactful and more thoughtful. But back to your specific question, the first one is role modeling. The important part of when behaviors become, or when things become real, is when you can get the words and actions to come together. Congruence is one of the most important signals you can ever give as a leader, because so many people get disappointed because they hear the words and the actions don't match up. So I can't say, hey, the importance of, one of the subtle things of being a great executive is moving to the custodian of the how and why, if I don't demonstrate that and role model that as well. So, what I try to do is just have a reminder, and the first question I start with is, how are you going? Just a little reminder to get myself into the how mode. And then, just reminding myself, it's just nothing. It's so easy to have the top of your pad or whatever it is. If you do it electronically and you're digitally savvy these days, on your iPad or whatever, that H and the W, how am I? Just to remind yourself to do that. And then always, the other thing I like to do is just make sure I have my P, which is purpose, because purpose can you think about the why as well. So that's not to say that you will talk a lot about the what, but it's just reminding not to forget about the how and why. So role modeling is really important. And then sharing it openly. Like, one of the things we talk about in the live streams about this moment in time is team. Let me be clear, the executive and I don't know all the answers here, but we're going to share with you, and we're going to, make decisions with the 80-20 rule, because we need to move fast. And in some instances, we may get it wrong, but that's not our intent. Similarly, share about this, communicate and talk about the how and why issue openly. And but it's very much about role modeling. It is probably the number one, because the words and actions coming together, people will then put it together. I'll give you an example. Sorry, Alex, it's a bit of a bug.
Don't apologise. You keep going. This is the easiest gig in town at the moment.
No, but it's just like, one of the things I think is really important to crystallise that how the words and actions piece is, we all remember, growing up and just, wanting to change the world, and we have these dreams, and then we come out to these organisations and, whatever it is, and you see a lot of 3 letters on buildings, and those 3 letters, it's like, oh my gosh, I can't wait, whether it's AIA or blah, 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 or blah, blah, blah. And, you're just ready to take on the world, and you want to join these organisations that you believe are changing the world, and you walk through the foyer and you see the fantastic reception, and you go through, and you're just about to take off, and you're on the way to Mars here, right? Or the moon. And then you see these words: teamwork, integrity, honor. And right now, you are just bursting, right? Like anything's possible. But unfortunately, that enthusiasm which comes through, with the people that we see joining our families at work, we call it the family, the feel the family plays as a team. Unfortunately, what goes wrong is that the words don't necessarily correlate with the actions, and it's the little ones. It's teamwork. But then when you're sitting with your manager as an leader as an impressionable new family member, and you hear how they talk about another department, it could be innocent. Oh, that IT department, they never get it right. And then when IT walks in the room, it's like, oh, IT, thank you so much. And it's like, that's what teamwork is. So I just really want to focus on the importance of, whatever it is you're trying to do, make sure the words and the actions come together. And doing the right thing, is not some of the time, it's all of the time. And I say to the team, my thing is, we've got code of conducts and we've got ethics, and they're really important. You've got to do all of those things. But the number one thing I want you to know that you're empowered to do is to do the right thing. And if you don't know what that is, please ask. And if you don't see it, speak up. And that's how, with 3,500 people working from home, I hope, and I remind them all the time, remember what you're empowered to do the right thing, because I can't be everywhere, and the executive team can't be everywhere, especially now.
So good. Look, I'm making notes as you talk. These are such important points. So I really hope everyone's really just absorbing this, because this is what leadership is about. And, you know, there's so many things you mentioned in there, Damien. I mean, you're completely right. This congruency. And this is the thing, like when you say leadership, you know, it's this privilege. You know, what's that saying, that leaders cast a long shadow? You know, like it or not, and you don't have to be the CEO. Everyone's looking at you for exactly what you're saying now. Well, hang on, she says that, but is that how she acts? Is that how she treats people? You know, all those small but massive things are so important. And I love that you said before, you said something about, you know, it's not, we don't have all the answers. And I think this is the pressure that for a lot of you, I hear you putting on yourselves about, well, I'm the leader, therefore I've got to be right. It's not about that. It's not about, no one actually expects or wants that, I think, Damien. I don't know, I'm sure you agree. It's about the things that you're talking about, that there's communication and there's a really clear purpose and the intent is clear, and this congruency in the role modelling. It's not about you having all the answers.
Yes.
It's got nothing to do with that.
No. If it's relying on me having all the answers, we're in a lot of trouble.
If it's long division for your daughter.
I make
right?
many. Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh, I tell you what, why did they start putting letters into numbers and maths? I mean, that just mixed the whole thing up for me. I was doing so well at times tables.
I'm the wrong person to ask about it.
Yeah. but no, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's, for me, getting it wrong is, there's no shame in it at all. I would just encourage people, declare your intent. Right? Don't let people assume. You know, Miguel Ruiz has came up with the 4 agreements to a successful life. You know, be impeccable with your word, do your best, don't make assumptions, and don't take things personally. And a lot of the time we leave a lot of assumptions to be made. So in your communication, take the extra 10 seconds to declare your intent. Hey, this is what I meant, or this is what I was intending. So other people don't leave the room going, well, what was the intent there? You know, what you know, was there something sinister there? And you're walking out of the room going, hey, you know, I think everything's. Don't leave it to be assumed. You know, and declare that intent and be open about getting it wrong. I mean, you know, I share openly 2 things. I'll share with you, Alex, and the group watching today, because you know, I wasn't walking the talk when I was really honestly said, you know, you lie to yourself. Right, a lot. And I was lying to myself, saying, you know, it's easy to say, hey, I'm working 12, 14, 16 hours, 20 hours a day, and it's all about, you know, giving my family a better life. That was a lie. Part of it was true, but it was also because I loved what I did and I got something out of it personally. And you got to be honest with yourself, right? And, you know, I used to, you know, didn't realize, you're right, you do cast a big shadow, and I needed to be open with people and share, hang on, you know what, I'm not always up like this. Because people suddenly, I didn't realize, but they thought, hey, to become a CEO, a chief entertainment officer, or a chief executive officer, depending on what hat you're wearing on the day, it means you've got to work 24 hours a day and you always got to be up. And I didn't mean that, but I didn't realize that was probably one of the negative shadows I was casting.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to then get back on and be really open to people and say, hey, you know what? You know, you see me up here and flying up here, but it's a long way to down there. And what you don't see is, you know, there are moments on a Friday evening I'm in Sydney Airport and I need to pull out my pity party cupcake and blow it out because I'm feeling sorry for myself, or I just want to curl up in the corner of the room and not talk to anyone. It's because, but, you know, if you don't share those stories, how are people going to know?
So important.
Yeah, so I wasn't walking the talk. And so, you know, sharing your stories is so important. And that's not, you know, things that are inappropriate or whatever, but just being able to show that human side, and, you know, people then can connect with you so much more. It's like, oh my gosh, damn, okay, yeah, he's got this side to him, but he's human, you know. And you know what, I wasn't being as I was, you know, I had to learn to be present. I wasn't doing a great job of being a father and a husband, and that's because I thought I could multitask. I thought I could email, text, call, cook, and clean and play cards with Kyle at the same time. Guess what, Alex? I couldn't. And my
We've
wife
already got brownie points for cooking and cleaning, but we'll come back to that.
Yeah, well, I didn't say it was good, but it was. But my wife was amazing in really being a mirror to me. She said, "You know what, Damien, we don't need you around a lot. In fact, it's sort of tiring when you're around a lot. So, but when you are here, can you be present?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, what? I'm not present?" I was offended. But you know, the reality was, Alex, I wasn't being. And what I learned was an amazing gift that I've been able to bring hopefully into my leadership toolkit, for want of a better term, which was, if you can be present, a 30-second lift ride can make an amazing difference. And what I learned was, just by spending a couple of minutes being present with Kai on the carpet, Kai's my son, playing cars, while my phone was locked away in the laundry, he would leave me. He would leave me after 2 minutes because his emotional tank was filled up, and he had what he needed from Dad. He's like, "All right, I'm off now, Dad," and he's bored. And I'm like, "Where are you going? Don't leave me." So being present is really important, and sharing your vulnerabilities and where you don't get it right is really important. So yeah, there it is.
Yeah, like it's so awesome. Like, it's just awesome to hear you talk. And the comments, you know, everyone's, because this is the thing, it takes the pressure off ourselves, but also everyone else. Because it's not about, I always say, no one wants another show reel. No one wants to see this other, you know, this is how it is and I'm always fine. And it's so inauthentic. And I think the fact that you're sharing this, like, it's really important. It's an important message. And I think it's awesome to you know, this, I think, Claudette, as you said, it's becoming, what did you say, Claudette? It's more and more obvious that sharing your humanity is a big part of being a good leader. Hell yeah. Do you think, gosh, there's so much that we could still dig into. So this is really important, because everything that you're talking about then, and a few of our other crew have put in, you know, this is about culture. Everything that you're saying then says that then, if I work for you, I trust you, I know that when you say that we can fail and it's about doing things first and just come back to your intent, I know that you mean that. And there's a lot being talked about building this culture of safety. And especially in corporates, because, you know, the buzzwords have been for a long time now, agile, and, you know, that's why we don't say pivot here now, we say pirouette. You know, they're all valid things, but you can't focus on the 80-20. You can't fail fast genuinely if you've actually got a culture that says, well, actually, I say it's okay to fail, but actually it's not. And this is the actions and words thing as well that you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, it comes out, and you got to, you know, again, you've got to sort of make sure you have to you know, when you want to change a behavior or help a culture to evolve, you have to overemphasize and bias to certain things. So, for example, you know, it's really easy to celebrate wins. But how do you really discipline yourself to focus on celebrating when we don't get it right? But the effort. So we just call it giving your best. That's what we celebrate. Have we done our best? Because guess what, team? If we've given our best, then we can't lose. We remove the concept of winning and losing, you know, by giving your best, because losing is a feeling rather than an outcome. And so celebrating those things are really important, and not just celebrating, sorry, is not just the right word, but acknowledging them and demonstrating in it together, right? That's the feel of the family, right? When we talk about the family, it's not just because of the love of the family, it's all the dysfunction of the family as well, you know? So we create an environment that hopefully people feel safe to challenge, to talk, to share, to acknowledge, and it works. I mean, one of the things when you know, purpose is a great, and culture are great words, but you know, but when you go down the journey of being purpose-led, you really take on as leaders, we take on a greater responsibility, because what you're saying is actually, you know, we're here for a greater purpose, and you know, we're not just in it to come to work and transactionally, you do this many hours and we'll pay you for that, and it's hey, you know, come here because we're going to do something very special together, and you take on a greater responsibility. It takes a lot more emotional energy because you have to care. So what's the defining difference? Is care, right? It's about, it's just as demanding because you've got to deliver, but you're actually saying, you know what, we care. and you can't care some of the time. You got to care all the time. So, I would just encourage people to really think about, what preparing themselves for that journey.
So yeah, so true. And I think the thing that you've just said then that just sparked in me is that this is the thing, it comes back to that role of the leader and the role that we play. These things aren't easy, and you don't kind of do it and send out an email and go, great, this is how we are now. You've got to constantly work and reassure. And I know we've talked a lot in this community about, especially early in COVID, I'm worried that I'm going to communicate too much. And my fallback has always been, you can't communicate too much. And, you've covered, declare your intent, because people hear different things, and you've just got to keep communicating and communicating. We're out of time, but no one's going to care if we keep chatting for a little bit more, I'm sure. Can you just also talk about, because I love that, so we've talked about role modeling and, being honest and true and having intention. I know that a big part of what you're building and have built in your team and culture is all about wellness. It's a big part, the well-being of your family. And I know that you do things like you've got things to help, everyone transition to the weekend, and you've got recharge days and stuff like that. Can you just give us a bit of a flavour of the sorts of things that you do around fun and wellness?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I'll try and do it quickly. But first, our purpose is to make a difference, and we call ourselves the Army of Mad. And our vision or our dream, we don't call it a vision, we call it a dream, is to champion and repurpose the nation around the dream of a healthier, longer, better life. Because we are blessed right now, Alex, in this wonderful countries of ours, Australia, New Zealand, but Australia, we're talking to mainly today. When we look at what's happening across the world and how what we're going through, you really do have an attitude of gratitude. But that is, we want to champion healthier, longer, better lives and have the dream, but you got to walk that talk here. And so what we found is, it's important that we focus on, the physical aspects, but also the well-being, mental well-being aspects. So we have our quarterly recharge day, which is just, people know that once a quarter they have a day off to just go and do what they got to do. Life is busy, just recharge. Yeah. We have our active wear. People can wear their active wear so they can encourage people to be able to feel comfortable to walk to work or ride to work or whatever, do all those things. Obviously, there's a range of initiatives. But the other one more recently with COVID-19 was, great. Everyone was working from home, but we knew and sensed that the novelty was going to wear off quickly. And what happened is the days, as we talked about, got longer because guess what? Everyone's trying to fit into everyone's flexibility. So some people like to work at night, so emails are flying off at 10, 11 o'clock at night. Some are morning people, so they're coming in at 5, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. It just becomes this thing. And because people are at home and unable to sort of go out a lot, what was happening was the weeks, the days were just becoming there. There was no weekends. So we implemented, or we said, let's just, hey, Friday afternoons, people, no meetings, no work meetings. Everyone just take the time. You can have catch-ups, virtual coffees and whatever, that's fine. We're not stopping people from interacting, but no work meetings, so we could just sort of transition and try and get people to help to transition into the weekend.
So, see, it's the simple things. And this is something that all of you can do with your teams as well. I think it's such a great final question. I mean, look, I've got a whole heap of stuff that we might have to do version 2. But so all that said, what's the one thing for you, if you're happy to share? What do you reflect on all of this? This is the thing that I'm going to take forward into whatever the next evolution is. And what's the one thing that, I'm actually going to leave that behind?
Yeah, that is Alex, honestly, I'm struggling with that a little bit right now because it's such a big question. And I feel like this has been a really, even though I love to reflect a lot and go on a date with myself every couple of weeks to get to know myself again, it is right now. I feel like, I'll put it out there. The universe is asking us to think about it. And it's sort of a little bit of a bigger question there, but tactically, or not tactically, but what I will do is I'm definitely not doing 150 flights a year again. I'm going to take care of myself a little bit more and spend more time with the family than having to feel like I need to be on a plane every second day.
Yeah.
I will encourage leaders to think about this out there. I went through, and we've got a fantastic, COVID-19 plan that we're working through, and a risk assessment of all the things, and they're all really important. We have a number of risks which we're tracking, and the one risk I said to the team to put on there that was missing is my fear that we will just go back to doing things the way we did. So please, if there is anything, keep an eye out for that, because I think we can all just come back out. Behavioural economics show that, you know, when we're in crisis, at that moment we change and adapt, but then, you know, we quickly revert back. So for that is a real fear for society, because I think we've got a chance to make some small changes to be a much stronger, better world.
You know, thanks for that. It's a great answer, and you're right. It's a massive question, and I love your answer, because it is about life, the universe, and everything. And I think we're all in this exactly as you've eloquently described about, wow, what does that look like? And I know, Margaret, you've put a comment there. You know, key fear for me too, that we'll just go back to the old comfort zone. So yeah, look, thank you so much, mate. We've gone over time. Amazing. So such a great conversation. Really appreciate you investing your time and energy with our community. It's great to see you here, and we certainly hope to see more of you and the AIA crew in this community. So thanks again. Thanks everyone for listening.
Alex, sorry, I want to thank you for the opportunity and for what you're doing, because connecting people is always important, and now more than ever. And I just want to congratulate you on the work that you and Few are doing, and also congratulate and encourage everyone who is tuned in today to you know, continue their journey to make a difference and take care of themselves. Thank you.
Well, thanks so much for watching, and I hope you got as much from this as I did. Some of the great takeaways for me in this episode are when Damien talks about sharing your authentic stories and that human side, which means people will connect with you on a much deeper level. I love how he says that he empowers his people to do the right thing all the time. And remembering that being an effective leader has absolutely nothing to do with having all the answers. I also love the take the extra time to declare your intent and don't leave space for people to assume. Don't forget that next week we have another fabulous lineup. Dr. Cortina McCurry, CEO and co-founder of Kaya, Susan Bransgrove, the founder and director of Liquid Gold, and Melissa Christie from 86400, who amongst other things has been awarded FinTech Leader of the Year. Now, all you need to do is to register via the Few platform on the streams page. Now, if you haven't made your way to the platform yet, it is super easy to register too. For tomorrow's fantastic replay, we have Tane Drinkwater, CEO of the Women's Competition for the NRL and the GM of HR Risk and Compliance at the Brisbane Broncos.